What's going on?
Hey, Eagly. Hey!
Hey, Lexi.
I'm not so sure.
What's the deal with the parrot?
That's an eagle. It's a bald eagle. It's the symbol of America. Are you telling me you don't recognize what kind of bird that is?
Okay, you obviously have not read my dossier. I have bird blindness.
Bird blindness?
I can't tell the difference between one type of bird and another.
Okay, but a duck and an eagle are totally different sizes.
Yeah, well, they look the same size to me, man.
Hey, panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this episode of the podcast, we are back with Peacemaker. Peacemaker came back for season 2 on HBO Max. It's no longer just Max, it's HBO Max. And we're obviously a spoiler-full podcast about the 2 episodes, people. So if you haven't watched the episodes, please stop now, go watch them, come back. Or if you prefer to be spoiled like I do at times, just hang around and listen and look for all the cool stuff and funny stuff that we get to talk about. The one thing about this, the first episode, just to go in before we get into synopsises, we already discussed Superman with Frank, Rob, Adam, and myself, and they had Peacemaker in the film. At one point. He does do a small cameo and stuff like that. Being that said and done, because we did cover Peacemaker season 1 last year, if you look at the ending of Peacemaker season 1 now on HBO Max, they retconned a lot of stuff. So we don't have the Justice League from the Snyderverse in it at the very end anymore. We have the Justice Gang, which we got introduced in Superman. So for those of you who are confused and have not watched the new Superman film, that is why. James Gunn has changed it so it goes, and they actually bring it up saying the DCU now. In the very beginning.
That's, I listened to the official podcast with James Gunn for episodes 1 and 2, or at least episode 1 for sure. I can't remember if I listened to episode 2 or not, but he kind of addresses it without really addressing it. Just basically, James Gunn just basically says, well, we did it. That's what we did. Not like that was their thing. Like Justice League was DCEU. That was their thing, and I'm DCU now. So he basically didn't apologize, just said this is what we did. We just did it.
Yeah.
To not making any big deal out of it, just like this is how it played out, in the nature of storytelling. So
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool. I got to, when I rewatched Peacemaker season 1 a week or so ago, prior to the season 2 starting, I actually watched it on a platform that still had the old version. So I got to see the old version and then didn't see the new version until they were doing the previously on in episode 1. And so they incorporated the Justice Gang into the previously on portion of the episode, which I thought was really cool. So
it kind of went kind of quick on the previously on. So it made you it's as if they wanted you to watch all of season 1 before season 2 came out. And I get that, but I still have those episodes available to me from the original. So I know I just find it funny. And now it has to be canon for James Gunn's universe, which is the new DCU.
Yep.
All right. Well, we could move forward now. We could explain the titles and the synopsises of these 2 episodes.
Sure. Peacemaker season 2, episode 1, The Ties That Grind. While Peacemaker attempts to join the Justice Gang, Harcourt struggles to find work, and Economist takes on a challenging new job, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Is the end of that thing. And then episode 2, which is A Man Is Only As Good as His Bird. The synopsis here is, as Economist clashes with his new handler, Peacemaker must deal with the consequences of his actions in the alternate dimension. So really, really cool. I really enjoyed both of these episodes, and actually watching them again today. I watched them for the first time. I watched episode one, a week or so ago when it came out, and then watched episode two when it came out, and then today rewatched them both kind of back to back. To get before we recorded and to put down some notes and stuff. And so I really like what they've done. They're picking up 6 months later. So there's one little nitpick I have with episode one, but the more and more I thought about it over the last week of having watched the episode and then watching it again, the 6 months later kind of explains it without really explaining my little nitpick that I have with episode one. But we'll get into that when we get into our discussion of
cool.
But how about you, Mark? How did you feel about these two episodes?
I, like you, I did the same thing. I watched the first episode when it dropped right that night, and then I watched it again for fun because of as if you listeners listen to our Superman coverage of the comparison to the original films, and then we did our Superman 2025 review. You could say how I was like, oh my God, there's too much James Gunn humor in this, and there's too much of this, too much of that. That's how I felt about with Superman. But with Peacemaker, it just seems to work. It's as if the writing was 100% on the character alone. And yeah, he did change it too with a little bit of the universe, but it works for this. I'm hoping after this season, when the DCU gets more with Supergirl, it kind of tightens up a little bit. He's making a whole new universe. And that's the one thing that we had to have like a conversation with the four of us when we were doing that day. And, it was the first movie out of the gate. So Peacemaker's already been established. They kind of retconned it. So because obviously James Gunn had done was it Suicide Squad or the Suicide Squad?
James Gunn did the Suicide Squad.
Okay. Because it's so weird how they didn't say it part two or something.
Right.
But with that, it was his world. And one of the things I did enjoy was the new song. So the introduction song was different, but the dance moves were all the same. You got a new cast of characters in there to look forward to.
With some old friends in there that we haven't seen yet necessarily, but we do see an old friend of James Gunn's in there who plays a different character, even though he was in the Suicide Squad. That would be Michael Rooker in that dance sequence. So I look forward to see whatever his character is, and I already looked it up, but I find it funny that we get Rooker again, and he's got long hair in it too, just like the character. But I did enjoy both, and like you, I watched them back to back. They serve a bit of continuity, which is great. A lot of character structure from where they left off too, from last season. A lot of that has to do with Chris himself, Harcourt, Economist, and Leah's relationship and how they are interacting, whereas before everybody was at odds in that first season, and that was all getting to know you thing at that time. And then you had to deal with Waller at that point. So now they're away from the world of Waller. They have their own little worlds, but they're also trying to struggle and figure themselves out after Argus kind of got rid of Harcourt. Chris was absolved of a lot of things, and now he's a quote unquote superhero, according to Leah. And then, of course, Adrian loves to contact economists a lot. And then Harcourt is struggling. And oddly enough, I have to say it front and first and foremost is that I love Jennifer Holland's portrayal in this season. So far, it's she always played second banana, small parts in James Gunn's films, but in this one, even last season, she was a very strong character. This one, there's a lot of emoting and a lot of struggling within a character and creation of it. So I'm really enjoying that so far. I'm looking to see where it goes. Yeah, I like that we're exploring that side of her character that we kind of saw a little bit of it last season, and Chris kind of mentions it in the second episode when he's looking at her, at her battle scars from her bar fight and stuff, when he's starting to realize that she's, she has this kind of sadomasochistic kind of side to her, and she's got this toxic masculinity, that gets called out in the first episode a little bit. That's played for comedy, but it's definitely there, and even and so and she plays it up really well, and she plays up the offended by it really well as well. But yet she still do that. I'm going to be interesting to see if we get how much of the alt Harcourt is, and if she's any different from the prime versions, for lack of a better way to word it, the prime version of Harcourt, because we see in the first episode we get this little inkling that Chris and Harcourt had some sort of a liaison. Something happened, but it didn't turn into anything, or maybe it turned into like some random booty call kind of things, so we'll see. But then when we get glimpses into the alternate, and I think the best thing to do with these two episodes is just talk about them together, not try to distinguish between the two. Is because there's so much that plays into each other with these two episodes.
There is.
But when we see from the pictures and from the phone in the second episode, we see that definitely there was a relationship there. And in fact, his brother says, hey, you that's the one you let get away.
Mm-hmm.
You probably try to get her back, something like that. He says, so it's gonna be interesting to see how much of that and how Jennifer Holland plays it, to see how well of an actor she is, because that's one of the other notes that I had in regards to John Cena, is just that his acting, we got to see some emotion from him in the first season, but here in the second season we get to see some real emotion from him, and this will bring me into my one nitpick of the episode. That of the first episode, that they explain it a little bit in the second episode, but not to my satisfaction. But it gives me, like I said, there's enough. I think 6 months is a long enough time, that it just, the very first time I watched the orgy scene, the party,
goodness.
when that party started, the first time I watched it in the episode, I thought, is he hallucinating? Like, how does he know this many people? Like, he doesn't have a job. He doesn't, as far as we know, he doesn't have a job. He's only been out of, like I said, I kind of started to rationalize it a little bit better in the fact that he's been out of prison now for 6 months. So he's had a chance to meet some people and have a life and stuff, but they didn't really show us that. And so where did he suddenly get this huge, and did his father have some sort of pile of money that he's able to afford the kind of things that, it just that sense kind of took me out of it for a minute, especially once it was confirmed that the party was actually happening. There was this orgy going on, and I'm like, when Economist, sneaks in and I'm just like, what is going on? How did he know all these people? Where do they all come from? How do they know him? Is it just because he's a superhero? Or what? And I think I think I've rationalized it well enough in my head to get past it, in that, in the 6 months that he's been out, he's been doing something. Because, we see him back at the school, and we didn't see the janitor, so we don't necessarily know if it's the same school that he was at in season 1. So he's obviously interacting with people on some sort of a level, So like I said, after I watched it for the second time and kind of thought more and more about it, I went, okay, I can kind of see maybe he could have this kind of a following, especially, again, going back to his father. His father must have had some kind of stash of money or something. Yeah. That I could see, them. Anyway, so that was the only thing that for me briefly kind of took me out of it. But with all that, I say John Cena's acting abilities and what he showed in these scenes. It was funny in the official podcast. They talked about the fact that he had never done drugs before. And so they actually had to teach him how to
Get high.
how to get high, how to correctly hold the bong, how to hold the, like, even in the first season, they had to kind of teach him. And even in this scene here, when it's even more drugs that he's doing, they had to kind of teach him what to do and how to do it and stuff so that he looked natural doing it. So I thought that was cool. And again, it just shows throughout these 2 episodes, we see his acting abilities have really stood out and gotten better and better. So I'm really impressed with him going from, especially moving from the world of, and not taking anything out of the professional wrestling world. Obviously there's acting that's involved in that. There's crowd work and things, but that's more of a caricature. That's more of an
enhanced version of yourself.
So but it was really cool to see in these episodes, see his acting kind of stand out for us.
I agree completely. He has grown as an actor. My brother would be a different person who doesn't like John Cena as an actor, apparently. But I said to him, he's grown on me over the years, because he played, if you remember back in the early years of, like, in the early 2010s, possibly late 2000s, he did the Marine.
He's done some things. Yeah, he's done some things. I haven't seen it. That I haven't watched really, but it was good to see him do something here. Like I said, he's been acting for a while. It's not like he's just suddenly been, but it's really good to see that his growth as an actor.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and to talk about that orgy scene, oh my God. It just gave me the flavor of, wow, HBO Max really wants to trudge on that same situation like Amazon Prime did with The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. When we covered The Boys, that had a lot of nipples and boobs and dingleberries and whatnot.
We had a lot of.
But this one, I was just like, oh wow, okay. I feel uncomfortable at the same time as I'm watching this, but I was just like, but it was so casual, but it made sense for the scene of like him and his haze. So
right.
But the funniest is how uncomfortable Adrian was during the cleanup.
Yeah. I thought that was great when you brought Adrian in, because again, that helped me kind of put it in perspective for me that he didn't invite Adrian to this thing, because he said, no, these aren't my friends. You know, this was just an orgy. This was just a party that I was having. And Adrian's like, well, I could have been here. And, you know, he's like, well, I'm not a pervert. I don't like sex. I just wanted to be here I just wanted to be with my friend. You know, I'm just
have sex with my friends if I had to.
Okay, dude, you're digging a hole here. And I had both in my notes for both episodes. I had Adrian is still a sociopath.
Yes, he is.
He's still a sociopath. You know, to even that part of that and I'd forgotten about it until my second watch of the second episode, to where why does he get naked on the roof? Like, he's in his skivvies on the roof.
Yeah, he was in his underwear
with Adebayo and Economist. I'm just like, what happened in this scene? The montage. The montage that we get him doing this. So Adrian is still Adrian, which I really appreciate that we got some Adrian in there, and it was good to see Adebayo's how her life is going. She's lost her girlfriend. She's trying to get this new business off the ground, and what is it? Economist says something about, I actually have the quote here. You're living in the worst level of Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
You know, when he sees her apartment, I thought was great in the first episode. And then the second episode, when Harcourt is talking, when Economist says, well, I'm surprised you're hosting this event. And Harcourt says, well, and I don't have the quote down here, but she says something to the effect. She says, well, Adebayo lives in a snake pit. Adrian lives at home. And the last time I went to Chris's house, Eagly tried to kill me. So, so that's why we're doing it here on my roof. So that was great. And that Adrian climbed up the fire escape to get there with his 2 cases of beer. And I love the reverse Marshawn Lynch joke. I don't know if that's what it was meant to be, but the reverse Marshawn Lynch joke of him throwing the bottle of beer at Economist and Economist not catching it, and finally them saying, just go hand it to him. And that's if you're a football fan, or if you're ever watched the league, there was a Super Bowl that the Patriots won, and one of the reasons they won that game was because the Seattle Seahawks chose to run a pass play instead of a running play. Instead of handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, the number one running back in the world, they decided to do a pass play, and that pass play was intercepted. So giving the Patriots eventually the win in that Super Bowl. And so the big joke around after that, there was a TV show called The League where they had a big joke about Marshawn Lynch standing there and the guy saying, "Oh, here, I'll throw the beer to you," and Marshawn's like, "No, just hand it to me." And he's like, "No, I'll throw it to you." And so I thought that's what I thought of when this whole thing of Adrian throwing the beer at him and then just hand it to me. So I thought that was great. And
there's definitely some sort of inside jokes that the writing team had done. So I
don't know if it was meant to be that, but it definitely mimicked that. I would have to do some research to figure out if these writers had anything in common with the league or with NFL. But some great moments in that first episode. That last fight, between Chris and Alt Peacemaker, was just outstanding, and the juxtaposition of seeing the way he kills.
The way he reacts to killing him accidentally. It's pretty much like an accident because he hits his jetpacks and he gets shot up into a chandelier or something.
Yeah, into the ceiling. And I thought it was very, very juxtaposed with how his brother died, in the prime version of the universe, how his brother died by accident, him hitting him and the brother going to the ground. So very, very definitely parallels there between those things. I loved seeing David Denman, and I have to admit, ever since I guess Brightburn was really the first post Office thing I've seen David Denman in, and he looks so different.
Yes,
he's
beefier, muscular in this one, right?
He's
real tall.
Thinner. He's more cut. He's thinner. I think he's more cut is I think the better, and he's standing up. I mean, he was always tall. You could always tell he was tall. And even when he played Roy in The Office, he was tall. When he was in the Replacements, you could see that. And but even with Roy, there was always this kind of layer of not fat, I don't want to say, but he was a big guy. He was seen as a big, not just tall, but as a big guy. Yeah. And the roles he's taken since he's gone to with the bald head, most of the roles he's taken have embraced his baldness, and so he has the baldness with the beard. He has more. He seems like his chest seems the same size, but his waist is thinner. So he's more cut. He's more.
I saw more cuts in his arms, like more muscle and mass.
Right, but that's what I'm saying is he's got that. He's bigger, but it's more defined. I think that's a better word. It's more defined than it was in the past. And so he looks so different. In fact, I just saw him in something else recently that he was in, and was it Reacher? No, it wasn't Reacher. There was something else he was in just recently that I saw him, that he had that same kind of look of more defined musculature. But as soon as you hear his voice, you can tell that's him. And so it was great to see him in this role. And I'm excited to see more of Keith and more to see how those characters are going to be different, because they seem from what we got in them in the first episode and the voiceovers we heard in the second episode, his father seems very, very close to the character he was in the first season, but I'm
the alternate version, the dimension version. He has like a strong relationship with his sons. They are considered the trio in that world, I guess, a superhero group that all three of them work with, because you could see all the accolades that they have.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out going forward. I had another question, and you might know this better than I don't know DC. I don't know comics that well. I know the first time I watched it, and it wasn't until I listened to the official podcast that I understood what Bloodhaven is. They kept saying in the first episode when he meets his alternate father and alternate brother, they kept saying, "Oh, we thought you were in Bloodhaven." And when I first saw that in the first episode, I thought that was maybe a prison or something like that. But no, apparently that's just another city or another country, another place where he was.
Yep.
So obviously that's going to come into place somehow in the future episodes of
Oh yeah, yeah.
what's
For the
going
fact
on
that Chris
there.
has to, if he takes his doppelganger's place at times, which I
Mhm.
think this is where it's going, he's
Yeah,
gonna wind up have to bring up all these excuses. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
And he's
of
gonna
how
try
he
to have
doesn't.
relationships with both versions of Harcourt at certain points.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that's going to play out in his own mind and in the show. I think is going to be interesting.
I love the difference between the doppelgangers of Chris when he goes in there. Actually, I have it. If you look at Chris's other self's room,
Mhm.
he has scorpions and it's spelled
With a
scorpions
Z, yeah,
with the UNZ on the poster. Hanoi Roxx with ROXX instead of
right,
rock. And
yeah.
then Pour Some Honey on Me by Def Leppard, spelled DEAFLEOPARD. So you could tell that it's a completely alternate,
Yeah,
different world that's there.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be fun seeing these little things and catching them. And I'm not one to pause a lot and try to focus in on things. So I'll be deferring to you in those catching
I
those.
like those little random little nuances that they
Mhm.
throw in there.
Well, like the newspaper clippings, that you catch on the walls as he's walking
Yes.
through the home, the alt's home, like you said, seeing the trio and stuff. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm really hopeful for the rest of the season to see how this is going to play out as far as future ramifications for him, whether there is anything in the DCU, whether we get anything more of White Rabbit, that very brief
Oh
cameo we
yeah, I
got.
think we will. And that is a real character in the DC universe, which is so funny.
Yeah.
I just like the fact that, Gunn has his typical people. We already know Rooker's coming in
Mhm.
because of the intro sequence with the music montage for the show. But we got, Nathan Fillion coming back as
Mhm.
Guy Gardner from Superman, and we got the what's her name from as
Hot girl. Yeah.
Hawkgirl.
Hot girl. Yeah.
I forgot her name. I'm
I
sorry
yeah, I
if I.
forget the actress's name, as the actor's name as well, but it's the
But
same.
and then David Denman, you said
Yeah.
he was in Brightburn, so he
Yeah.
brings in all the alums. He even brings
Yeah.
his own brother in,
Yeah,
Sean Gunn,
we get to meet Sean Gunn. We get to meet the head of what
Maxwell
was it?
Lord,
Yeah, we get Lord Corp or
Lord Tech.
Lord Tech. Yeah, that we that was hinted at in Superman. They talked about the fact that
Yes,
the Justice Gang has this benefactor of Lord Tech, and now we actually get to meet Sean Gunn, the head of Lord Tech.
and it's a funny
And
scene. I just had to laugh because the mute wouldn't work, and
yeah,
I just love how Fillion has to play it off, going, they'll talk about like Chris blowing guys,
yeah, yeah,
killing people, and then saying, yeah, it's like, yeah, put that down. He's a socio
yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey,
sociopathy is in there.
am I supposed to be able to hear you guys? Wait, you can hear us?
Yeah, and
It was
then
great.
and Max go, oh man. How many times did I talk about White Rabbit's camel toe? I
Yeah, the
must have
camel
said it like
toe.
30
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, yeah. It was hilarious, that whole thing of him. And the fact that they're arguing amongst themselves and they look and Chris has already left the building, and
Yeah,
so it was
and he was
really
mad,
yeah,
but
yeah. Well, and again, that leads us into this emotional episode that brings him to this low point in his life. This low point of this party that he ends up having,
yeah,
and then and I don't know if the Zora character is going to come back, but I know there's been other he meets a girl coming out of the bathroom, Zora, and calls her Zora and says, "Can you help get all these people out of here?" And I know
yes.
I think there's been multiple DC villains and heroes with that name Zora. I think I don't know if that's an indication of what's to come or just a little Easter egg for people to catch, but again, that it's going to be interesting to see And again, that helped me justify. Okay, I can see he's had enough time to make some friendships and develop a posse or a group around him that would have this kind of a big party at his house and snort his cocaine and drink his booze and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I thought it was great. We get to see Rick Sr., Frank Grillo.
Oh yes, yeah,
comes out
and within that time we get the mix of flashbacks to the Suicide Squad because he goes after Junior. So we kind of got that reasoning of why Rick Flags Sr. is here and he's taking over Argus, basically away from Amanda Waller. Now he's Economist's new boss.
Yep.
And the best is he wants to look into, and he looks at Rick Flag Jr.'s, like, they had like a play-by-play of a script of what happened when what Peacemaker did to him and what was said at the end. And he's holding everything towards Peacemaker. He wants vengeance.
Yeah.
Steve Grillo is great. I'm glad, the last time we saw him in another Marvel-based movie, a Marvel movie, was in Captain America and the Winter Soldier. So, is it Civil War?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know he's been around he's been around different projects and things. So he's an old hand. They talked about him in the official podcast. They talked about him, and he's actually part of the official podcast when they record it with James Gunn and Holland as well. So it's really cool to hear those actors talking about what was going on set and what it was like to have those kind of things. So yeah, really, really cool to have him in there. I feel like he's going to be the straight man. He's had a very serious kind of role, which is always interesting to see actors who can play that kind of straight man in a comedy kind of role, because it's a tough bill to fill when you have all this craziness around you and you have to be acting like you're the serious one. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved Tim Meadows. Cannot wait to get more of this. As soon as that door opened and they showed him, I was like, Tim Meadows, as I did not know he was going to be in this show. And so getting to see him was
his
just
comedic wit in it about bird blindness.
Yeah. And Ginger Cool. Can I call you Ginger Cool? No, don't call me Ginger Cool. And then he starts calling him Ginger Cool. And that's
not a thing.
He gets everybody, he's giving everybody a nickname, and then he gives that one kid the different nicknames.
Man, titties. Yeah. And what was the other one? I forgot.
He had all sorts of ones. He had Cupid was the
Cupid
the
doll.
One. Yeah, Cupid doll was the kid, and then when he didn't like Cupid doll, he said, well, you're going to be barely legal then. And, so it was hilarious what he did. And just that fight with Eagly was hilarious. I don't care how CGI, I don't care if it didn't look corny to me at all. I loved the CGI of it. I loved the CGI strut back into the house after everybody's been defeated, and they start that song up, and you just get that quick, that of the bird walking. And I know it's all CGI, but I don't care. I'm here for it because it was just outstanding to see that bird, stalking back into the house after defeating all these guys. It was pretty cool. But cool, man, the eyeball stuff. Why is it there's been so much eyeball stuff in shows?
Yeah, I know.
The last few shows I've watched, I'll have like an eyeball thing going on. I'm like, can we get off the eyeballs?
It's a hard one to pass.
Yeah.
I was actually just I was rewatching Fallout season 1 earlier today, and it's that whole thing with the pregnant woman and the eyeball, the fork to the eye. I know, right?
Yeah. So, so absolutely loved everything with Tim Meadows. Can't wait to see more of him going forward.
He plays Fury, as they call him.
Flurry. I think it was Flurry. I think it's Flurry.
Flurry?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's Flurry. The closed captioning that I saw looked like FLE.
Flurry.
So Flurry.
Yeah, Langston Flurry, they call him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought that he's hilarious. I loved the montage, the Dexter-like, and you can tell we've been watching Dexter Resurrection because the very Dexter-like disposal of the body, but not doing it very well.
Oh,
when
yeah,
when they're
especially with
cutting up,
Adrian and him.
yeah,
Oh,
dropping
top.
the head, and then trying to put it up into plastic and stuff was just
Chris initially doing all that and trying to hide
yeah,
it. Yeah, that was another
yeah.
thing.
And
But
they're
then,
wearing, they're wearing the leather smock with the little face shield
yep.
thing and the bone saws. It was all, I was just like, oh, this is
But
so
Adrian
Dexter.
was having too much fun though. At a certain
Yeah,
point, he's like kind of dancing with the mop after a while,
yeah,
having too
yeah,
much fun.
yeah. It was a little, and this was another thing that kind of surprised me a little bit is that this his father has had this quantum entanglement universe or whatever, however he
Yeah,
worded it,
I
for
have it.
years. Had Chris never explored it before, or at least I guess Prime Chris had never explored it before, but apparently
I don't. Yeah,
Alt Chris
well,
had.
if we recall going last season, he only jumped in there and walked in there with his father.
Right,
You
and he
never
only went as far as the seeing his helmets,
his
and it,
helmets and his
right,
representation. I don't
right.
recall last season seeing as many doors.
No,
That
no,
was
no,
like a
not at all.
Monsters Inc. thing that they threw into this that I
Yeah,
really
well, and
do enjoy.
yeah, he walks because he's trying to find Eagly because he's let Eagly loose in there and he can't find Eagly, and he stumbles upon another row of helmets that are slightly different
Yes.
than his helmets. They're just a little bit different to enough that he was able to go, wait, these are different helmets. And then he keys in, he uses the same code on the door and then walks into the alternate universe. And suddenly he realizes he's in an alternate universe because especially then once he hears his dad and hears his brother and stuff. So I just thought it was cool. This idea of this alternate universe being in there. And I don't know if the other character that we've seen that he's like, that guy's a dick. He doesn't say hi to me at all.
Oh, the alien, yeah.
The alien looking, or the guy who's in a suit, some sort of suit or something. I don't know if that guy's going to come into play at all, or if he's going to kind of be like the neighbor from last season, to where we just kind of see him every once in a while, and then
He
he
keeps
goes
throwing
about
out like what looked to be like alien rats into the incinerator every time. And then he
Yeah.
just comes in at the wrong time when Chris is there and he goes, well, who's that? He goes, I don't know. It's a guy who doesn't say hi. What a dick move
Right.
that
Yeah.
is.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought, I'm intrigued to see more of this quantum universe, to see if they're going to show us anything more of it. I thought was really, really cool. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited. The end of episode 2, we get some sort of, there's going to be some sort of interaction with the alt Harcourt, which like I talked about before,
Yep,
I'm
he
looking forward
texted
to.
her at that point. She responded with hey, but with a
Yeah.
broken heart emoji on the text while he was in the other realm.
Yeah, and then we saw the three little dots, and then the three little dots went away. So we'll see again how that. I knew. I will say this. I did expect something was going to happen when he texted the hey from his universe,
Mhm.
and nothing happened. I was like, oh, he's going to walk into the
Yep.
other universe, and as soon as he walks in there with that phone, it's going to connect and send the text. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. She got the text as soon as he walked into the alternate universe with that phone. So yeah. So I'm excited to see what's going to come, more of his father and more of his
With
brother,
Keith,
because
too.
with Keith, I knew that Robert Patrick was slated to be in this season, and I just wondered how they were going to bring his character about. And I will say alternate universe was not on my bingo card. When I went in, I'll be honest, I went into this season 2 of Peacemaker, I think pretty much completely cold. Like I don't think I'd seen anything
I didn't watch
as
anything
far as
either.
any spoilers or any teasers for it. So I had no idea what to expect. And I'm all for it. I will say this, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but even James Gunn says it in the official podcast, and he's in the dance montage. So that's where it's funny. James Gunn let this little spoiler slip, and when his wife and Frank Grillo called him out on it, he kind of said, well, if they've watched the teaser trailers, they know he's coming. And so skip ahead about 30 seconds if you don't want to hear a brief spoiler. Judo Master is going to return. Judo
Yeah.
Master will be here. He is in the dance montage, and James Gunn did officially say it in the official podcast that Judah Master will return. And like I said, he was called out by both his wife and Frank Grillo. Hey, that's a spoiler. Well, if they've seen the trailer, they don't. It's not a spoiler.
Or if you watch
So,
the opening of the actual
yeah.
show too.
Again, you watch the opening. He's in the dance number, so you should be able to guess that anybody who's in that dance number is a good.
It's common
good
knowledge. If
indication.
you see that, they're going to use the same one over and over again.
Yeah.
And
So they're
on
coming
top
out.
of that, whatever is going to be coming. The aliens part of this. There's two different versions of Harcourt. Obviously, I don't know if you picked that up because you see Robert Patrick and what's his
there's
name?
different. She's dressed
Denman
differently.
Is dressed in his costume, and then she is dressed with like a sweater or something. In comparison to regular Harcourt, went in the dance sequence. So
So
they're
I think,
trying to establish, but the independent or different versions of these characters too.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see going forward what that incorporates in there. So I'm excited, though. I'm excited for this season, and I'm looking forward to podcasting on it as much as I can.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little. I'm ready to wrap it up. Sorry.
Right. Well, to let you listeners know, I do have all the needle drops of this. You can find them online, but I'm going to put them in the notes. So that way you have a fun time looking and picking them out. There are a lot of music that James Gunn drops in these shows. I only have a few quotes.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm done. I'm tapped out. So.
Okay, Harcourt saying to the clerk, had a good view over there, Beaker? And then the woman trying to explain to him who Beaker is when Harcourt has her little meltdown in the pharmacy.
Yeah, thought that was fun.
Chris saying to Leah in the car, saying, "People tough like me die of old age. It's just stats." And she goes because he was talking about her getting into the field.
Yeah.
And then Harcourt during the interview. She just blurts it out. It's like because he called him a cunt, and she goes, in England, cunt means friend.
Yeah, trying to backpedal a little bit. So that was great.
And then I have one last one. That was economist to Adebayo about where she lives. Oh, you already brought it up. You're living in the most screwed up version of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, the worst level.
And then
the worst level.
They talk about something that I don't know. We didn't bring it up. What's this athlete's foot place?
I just assumed that was a take on Foot Locker, the athletics shoe store. I just figured it was that.
I'm assuming so too.
Yeah.
But for you listeners, obviously, I'll put all the needle drops in so that way it'll save us some time for you listening to us banter about it and talk about it. And it's just me saying it. But that's about it for our coverage of these first two. I know it seemed a little bit quick. But next episode, we will be covering a little bit more detail. And with next week, we'll be covering Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 3, entitled Another Rick Up My Sleeve.
Nice.
So keep that in mind. That's what the title is. The website that I actually went to actually had everything broken down to every episode name. And they're going to continuously put all the music there. So if you guys really want that, I could put that in there as a link. But I like the needle drops and just dropping each individually. There's also a description in it too that I'll put in there. All right. Well, I did set up things for feedback, and no, we didn't get anybody. But honestly, it happens. But
that's okay.
For you to send feedback, literally all you have to do is go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/panels to pixels. Just follow us there. What's on, Facebook is on Instagram, and Instagram is at Panels to Pixels Podcast. And literally, just leave your thoughts in the comments below of each image of what we're covering. I've been posting, so that's there. You could email us at panelstopixels1@gmail.com. Panels, 2 is spelled out to pixels, the number 1 at Gmail. We could get feedback through YouTube. So if you search Panels to Pixels Podcast, subscribe, get notified, ring the bell, we get comments through whatever that, if that's your preferred way of listening to us. Same thing with Spotify, but we could be found on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then please do give us a review if you have the opportunity. We would greatly appreciate that. But that's how you could actually get in touch with us. With that, well, where can listeners hear us?
Well, I can be heard right here on Panels to Pixels podcast, and I send voicemails to various other podcasts that our friends do on other networks and other shows. So you'll hear my voice pop up occasionally.
Awesome. And as always, I can be found here, Panels to Pixels podcast. You could hear me currently on the Sandman cast on podcast, as well as here, that we put it out there as well on Panels to Pixels podcast. Adrenaline Cinema podcast, we just put out our version or coverage of Megaforce from 1982. So Frank Rodriguez and I had a good time talking about an old movie right there. You can also hear me on the Pirate Core Entertainment podcast as well when I do the music podcast. When we have an episode up for you, we'll let you know. I could also be heard on What's On Tonight when we do Dexter Resurrection. And that is still ongoing. We have like about one more episode, I believe. So other than that, that's about it. We'll continue our talk next week when we do Peacemaker Season 2, Episode 3, another Rick Up My Sleeve. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And same podcast, different panel, different pixel. This was Panels to Pixels podcast. And we'll see you on the next panel. Good night.
Good night, everybody.